Okay, so I guess before we get into the detail, um, uh, today I'm planning to run for 45 minutes. I love the idea of doing something for less than an hour. It just feels a lot shorter. I'm going to break that down into about half an hour of just running through an introduction, and then allowing up to 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Given there's only two of you for now, Jeff might join. We might well get through it quicker. So I'm not going to hold you if there's nothing to talk about. So, it'll be short and sharp, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. Look, given there's only a few of you, if you've got a question as we go, I usually like to hold the questions to the end, but if you feel inclined during the presentation, just sing out. I haven't muted you, so I'm happy to make it interactive if you wish. So I guess my first slide is, why BYS or Book Yourself Solid? There's a lot of systems out there, a lot of approaches to selling and marketing and business generally. But for me, I wanted something, if I was going to engage with an organization, I wanted something that was, fairly credible and that was systematic. And, I've looked at a lot of things. I've been working on my own for 17 years, and I've had some associations with many of them. But I've known Book Yourself Solid for 10 years, since John Grauke, who's a mentor of mine in Sydney, first gave me the book. And in the interim, I speak to John often. And when I signed up for a 6-week course back in June and then completed that, and I was offered the opportunity to become one of their certified mentors, I reached out to John, as I do often with these sort of life business decisions. And I said, what did you think? And as you can see in his response to a message on LinkedIn, he believes that it's without peer, that it's fairly unique in the way it approaches things. Obviously, a lot of what we see in all aspects of business these days are a rehash of ideas that are put forward over many years. But John, who is a consultant to consultants and knows a lot of these things really well, is a strong advocate, but he's got no ties to Book Yourself Solid. He's seen it and he uses it to an extent in what he does, and also in his daughter's business. So, if that was good enough for John, it was great endorsement for me to come on board. So I just wanted to give some independent sort of verification of, why it's good, just drawing on the experiences of someone who's very well regarded in the Sydney business community. So what exactly is Book Yourself Solid? I know that Sharon has the book, so she's got a high level sense. I'm not sure what Julia knows, but one of the things that really caught my attention when I got involved was the tagline to the book. And, sorry, I went a slide too fast. If you can see, there's a fairly extensive tagline under the title of the book, and it goes, the fastest, easiest, and most reliable system for getting more clients than you can handle, even if you hate marketing and selling. I'm just reading from the book. So, a couple of things that particularly resonated with me, and one of them is something Sharon said before, the idea of being, he used the word easy. I prefer to use the word simple. Einstein had a fairly well-known quote called, make things as simple as possible, but no simpler. And that's always resonated with me. I think simplicity is such an amazing thing. And, in many ways, if you ask me what my zone of genius is, if you believe in that, I'm a strong believer in that. I think it's my ability to synthesize complexity into simplicity. So the whole idea of simplicity really resonates with me, because it's, the thing I think that I happen to have a special skill in. And I think we've all got unique stuff. So I'm not saying I'm a genius. I'm just saying I think we've all got something very unique. And that's, I think, my thing. So it resonated with me. The other thing in the tagline that I loved was the idea of a system. For those of you who know Michael Gerber, who's probably one of the more quoted business authors out there, he talks about this concept of franchise systems, which is basically, franchise systems applies a fully system in a box business. So everything is documented and systemized. And to me, that is so important for scaling and, keeping a business that's under control, having good systems. So the whole idea of simplicity and systems of the tagline really resonated with me. So just moving along, you might say, well, what's compelling about it? What's the promise? And Book Yourself Solid was first, the book was launched in 2006. And since that time, there've been 3 editions. And there's also been the illustrated version, which both Sharon and I have, which was also brought out, separately. So there's been, if you like, 4 different releases of the book, not reprints. They've redone the book. And one thing I know as a fact that in 2008, which is 2 years after it was first released, it was the 2nd highest selling book in the world of all genres. So, that says a lot for a book that can get that kind of traction. Long before Amazon gave everyone, a best readership rating, and it's still a big selling book. So, it's been around for a long time, and the promise of the organization, based on, I believe, thousands of people who've used it over the years, is that on average, over a 12-month period, if you implement the system in a holistic way, I mean, you don't have to do everything, but the building blocks, you can expect an increase in your revenue over a 12-month period in the order of 40%. So this is a figure that they quote. Michael Porter, I believe, is a very credible guy. I don't think he just pulled that figure out of the air. If that's true, I think for most people, there's got to be something in that. A 40% increase in revenue, I think a lot of people would take that. So what is Book Yourself Solid? Just a little about the system, if you like. These slides you're going to be seeing, I'd love to say they were my creation, but most of them are out of the Book Yourself Solid resource library, which makes my life a lot easier. So they've got this analogy, if you like, with an aircraft flight. There's 4 different modules in Book Yourself Solid, and I'll just run through them very quickly. The first is what they call the systems check. So it's all the things you do before the aircraft even starts rolling, if you like. So right up front, and in the Book Yourself Solid system, that's the foundation. And again, comparison is building your house. If you build your house without a solid foundation, it might well fall over. And I guess, that applies in a lot of things in life. If you don't do the basics right, whatever happens after then is not on a solid foundation and is often, less likely to be successful. So the first module is this, your foundation, getting your foundation right. The second module is all around the trust and credibility. And I think most people who've been in business for a long time, and Julia, I assume that applies to you too. I mean, obviously I work more in a Commonwealth, and I suspect these concepts are right across the Western world. I mean, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but certainly in the world I inhabit, people talk about this idea of like and trust in the consulting space a lot, which is kind of, another terminology for trust and credibility. And so again, the analogy here is runway takeoff. Just when you're pushing down and you're kind of getting ready to kind of, I guess, get your business off the ground, if you like. The third module is, again, using the aircraft analogy, full throttle. And that's all around perfect pricing. So in the Book Yourself Solid world, we have 12 different pricing strategies. So depending on your offering and the industry you're in and how unique you are, we've got a whole bunch of different strategies. And one of the things I find a lot in business is that people don't have any sense on a pricing strategy. And it's like I say to people, if you walk into a restaurant or into a real estate agent and there's no indication of pricing, my inclination is to walk out. And I think a lot of clients are the same, is that if they don't have a sense of, what you're offering and there's a bit of a menu, it becomes a bit vague. So getting your pricing right, I think, is really important. And in Book Yourself Solid, we have 12 different strategies, and you can, use a hybrid of some of these, but there's a very definitive approach to pricing. And then the other thing is just having simple sales conversations that are authentic and, not in your face. My sense of the people I communicate with on LinkedIn is that most people are, not heavy duty salespeople. So how do you have those conversations where you're inviting people in without, being overbearing? And again, Book Yourself Solid has an approach, and it uses a lot of languaging around the first 3 modules. So, you're not sort of reinventing the wheel, it's reinforcing these concepts, and it's the different steps you use as you educate your clients. For those of you who are familiar with Google's approach to communication in engaging with clients, they've got this thing called ZMOT, which is the 0 moment of truth. And in their model, and obviously they've got access to a lot of information, they believe that it takes on average 14 touch points to engage with a client. I'm hoping it's not as many as that, but we all know that you have to do a bunch of stuff before you convince a client or a prospect to come on board. The final stage of the Book Yourself Solid system, or the 4th module, if you like, is, again, cruising altitude. That's the aircraft analogy, but it's the equivalent of the marketing piece. In Book Yourself Solid, we don't talk about marketing a lot because I think a lot of people are put off the whole concept of marketing. We understand it's necessary, but a lot of people don't like it because it's the downfall of many businesses. So in Book Yourself Solid, we talk about these 6 core self-promotion principles. And to be honest with you, they really marketing tools, if you like, the more traditional things. So I'll touch on what those are on the next screen, but these are the 4 modules. So that's, if you like, the essence of Book Yourself Solid. It's just these 4 modules. So again, this is a very busy slide. It's not important that you know all of the information on the screen. It's really putting that information from the previous screen into a slightly different format. So you'll notice there's 4 lines of information. And if you work from the bottom to the top, those are the sequence of the 4 modules. So the bottom is module 1, the second bottom module 2, etc. And even though, I guess traditionally we read from the top to the bottom, in Book Yourself Solid, we work from the bottom to the top. So, the foundation is the bottom piece. And then the next bit up is the credibility and trust, and the perfect pricing and sample selling we spoke about before. And the top bit is the marketing, or the 6 core principles. So even though we've got them listed from the bottom to the top, we've got the marketing at the top, we actually approach them working upwards. So you'll notice in this document that there are a number of what we call components or building blocks. So there's 4 in the first one, 4 in the second from the bottom one, 2, and then 6 at the top. So in total, there's 16 building blocks. And within those 16 building blocks, there's a whole bunch of exercises and worksheets, which we're not going to go into detail about today, but it's a very systematic approach. And I've had a few people say to me, this is really simple. And they're kind of implying, why would I, get engaged in something that's simple? And, to my point of earlier, it's like simple is good. It's a systematic approach with a whole bunch of building blocks. And, another thing I always think, I don't try and be smart with it, but, that old thing of, common sense is an uncommon thing. So just because it's obvious doesn't mean people do it, right? So, I think simple is good. If it is complicated, to me, that's a bigger problem. So what I'm going to do now is I've just given you that overview. It's not important that you know all of the detail. This is intended to be an introduction just to give you a sense of the framework. So if I look at module 1, and don't be concerned, I'm not going to be giving you this level of detail to any other modules for 2 reasons. First of all, module 1, I believe, is the most important, like the foundation to a house. And secondly, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information today. I really want to give you a bit of a sense. I'm going to get a little bit granular in one of the components of module 1, or one of the building blocks, and that's the second one listed here, which is why people buy. But just in module 1, very quickly, there's these 4 building blocks: red velvet rope policy, which is all around, only letting ideal clients in. We all know that there might be businesses out there who could be a good client in terms of face value, but if they don't have the same values as you, they're going to be problem clients. They're going to complain, and they're never going to want to pay their bills on time. We've all come across those clients. So being very specific on the type of client you want, And then, talking a little about why people buy. That's the second module. Your personal branding. And your personal branding is very much around this idea of how you differentiate yourself from the marketplace. So we'll be talking a bit about that. One of the things we say in Book Yourself Solid in your personal branding is one of the components is your who and do what statement. So who do you serve and what do you do for them? So, building all of this, if you like, IP or your personal branding is a central part of Book Yourself Solid. And I suspect certainly with you guys, the two of you on this call, a lot of this stuff you've got well developed. Some people have got it better than others, and some people new in business don't have it at all. And then the third part is, just how you talk about and articulate the components of the first three building blocks within this module. So as I mentioned, just to give you a sense of how Book Yourself Solid fits together, I'm just going to get a bit granular on one specific thing. So on the Red Velvet Rope policy, you'll see the second one is why people buy. The next level down, so this is a drill down, if you like, of that number 2 on the screen, is this why people buy. And that in turn is broken down into 4 components. And specifically, I'll run through them. The first one is identifying your target market. I think that's something, we've all heard of before. The second part was understanding your client's urgent needs and compelling desires. Again, those are things we've spoken about. Now, urgent needs are things that need to happen immediately. Compelling desires are more sort of longer term things. So there's worksheets in all of these areas to support them. The next one is very much determine the number 1 result you provide. For those of you who responded to my post yesterday, and Sharon, I certainly think you were one. This is a concept I introduced yesterday, so you would have seen this one before. It's just one I found that is quite easy to talk about quickly. Some of the others have a little more complexity. And then the final component of this why people buy is this idea of the benefits of what you provide. And in Book Yourself Solid, we talk about 4 types of benefits, or we use the acronym FEPS, which is financial, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So what I'm going to do today, again, in the interests of the limited time we've got together, but also not to overwhelm you, is just to go back and say, okay, so we're within module 1, building block 2, and within building block 2, it's the third item. So it might be a little confusing, but it's just showing you where we get to, if you like, putting the rubber on the road, getting detailed on, well, these are all concepts, but what is Book Yourself Solid? It's really more of a how-to manual than a why book. So it is very much an instruction manual, if you like. And this is one of the examples of the type of exercise and worksheet that we have within Book Yourself Solid. So this fairly busy slide here is one of the exercises, and it's really a straight extract from the book. This is an exercise you would have. So what I might ask you each to do, and what I'm going to do at the end of this, is just share with you guys what my number 1 result is, and ask each of you at the end of this exercise to share it with us in a group, just so we can have a bit of interaction and you can get a sense of, how we might go about getting to an ideal outcome. So if I could ask you each just to take maybe 20 seconds to read what's on the screen, and then I'll bring you back and we can take it a little further and just spend a bit of time on this exercise. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Morning. This is the first time About 10 years I'm late.
No, no worries. Good to have you on board.
Yeah, good. I think looking at this, obviously, with my clients, I've got to basically let them make sure they get their brand awareness out there and meet a lot of new connections. But obviously, ultimately, I need to get in front of the right people.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff. I was just really welcoming you onto the call.
Okay.
I know we're interrupting, but there's only a few of us. Jeff, I don't know if you know Julia. Is it Poja or is that the correct
Poger.
Yeah, yeah.
Poger.
So Julia, you've probably come across Julia in the mastermind.
Yes.
And you
I comment on him all the time.
Okay, and Sharon, you know Jeff, right?
All good.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, that's all good. Sorry, I just
Who's
wanted
Sharon?
to do the introduction. So we'll keep going with the exercise. So as I said, you've read what's on the screen. And now what I'm going to ask you to do next is just to record on a piece of paper what your own biggest result is. As I said, for some of you who might have seen my post yesterday, you might have already given this a go. But if you could just document from that earlier, and I'll put it back up there, you know, what do you think is your number one biggest result? A lot of people, I think, when I put the post out there, are talking about their number one offer. And I believe there's a slight difference between an offer and a result. An offer is the way you pitch it. A result is the way the client gets it. So think of it, if, you know, put yourself in your client's shoes and what do you believe their number one result is? So if you just write down, you know, in a sentence, what that is. And as I said, it needs to be one thing. And I'm going to ask each of you to share it with us, just so that we can have a little bit of lighthearted interaction. So I'll give you like 20 seconds if you could just record what your number one result for your clients is. Okay, guys, I might just keep moving along. I'm mindful of the fact that the clock's ticking. Jeff, I know you wanted to share something earlier, so I might ask you just if you want to share with us what it is, and you know, we can just have a bit of input what we individually might have to add.
There's two things. One that I'm most proud of is the fact that my first exhibition that I did, I got 1,600 people there, 140 exhibitors.
Yes.
I think the personal one was a friend of mine called Matt Lavery, who's in our group. He got a £51,000 job out of our exhibition.
So what's your number one result? What's one sentence description of that?
My description would be to help clients gain more work.
Okay. So it's to get for your clients to get more work. Would you say, does more work represent more revenue, more clients? In your world, what does more work look like?
Well, I have to make sure that people understand what they're going to get when they come to one of our exhibitions, because I always say, I can't see you're going to make £1 million.
Yeah.
You could do. So when it does come to fruition, when clients actually do get physical orders, if you will, or work.
Yeah. I think I actually quite like that language, you know, to get more orders, because orders is, you know, it's something physical, whereas the work to me is almost a tangible concept. So yeah, I think that's great. Look, in my world, and you read it on the previous screen, it's to get more clients, and get more work is a variation on that. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I specifically work in the service industry, and you work in broader industry. So that, I mean, does that sound right for you to get for your clients to get more work or get more orders?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's I have a funny one, because misconception is, I always say to people, listen, you will not make £1 million out of our exhibition, because some people, I don't want people rocking up saying, I'm not got any orders from it, because it's not, ultimately it's about building relationships with people and raising your brand awareness.
Yeah. But I mean, Jeff, that's the ultimate outcome, isn't it?
Ultimate outcome is new clients, obviously.
Yeah. Or I mean, the new orders is kind of a similar thing, isn't it? And you prefer that the concept of new orders or new clients?
Obviously, the new orders will be the best one for clients because it does happen. It does happen quite a lot as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, because in a lot of service businesses, you get a client and you have them on recurring for 6 months to many years. Whereas I think in a lot of industries, it might be one-off sales, which implies more orders, but they're kind of similar concepts. So I think that's very succinct. And one of the things I would just say with this whole idea of the number one result is that it's it's obviously going to vary from person to person, but it needs to be as tangible as possible. And I think the way you've articulated, just having a short, sharp statement like that is, to me, it's something you can hang your hat on. And even though you providing so many things to your clients and prospects, friendships and freedom and peace of mind and financial security, it's that one thing that you can talk about freely. So I might turn to you, Julie, if that's okay. Have you come up with a number one result?
Kind of. I decided I would go with the interpreting side.
Yes.
As opposed to any of the other things. And the problem is that my number one result is their number one result. So it's basically achieving their number one result with their Russian-speaking prospects. That could be to have their Russian-speaking prospects take action on whatever it is that they're doing, sign a contract, go into business, win a court case, an arbitration case or something. But everybody has their own goal that I work with, and that's one of the difficult things about interpreting, about articulating what the one result is, because it's them achieving their goal. So there you go.
So, the way I would interpret us, I was about to say.
Perfect.
The way I would understand that is to facilitate people to achieve their business goal, because everyone's goal is different. It's not necessarily all about money. It could be a relationship thing. And I think, that type of language to me really resonates. It's helping people achieve their goals. It's quite some people would argue it's a little less sort of tangible than, some of the things. But I think given what you do, there's a lot of things, people who lifestyle coaches or mindset coaches, they don't necessarily achieve something that's measurable in my sort of finance world where everything is measured by figures. But if you're giving someone peace of mind, that's somewhat intangible. And I think what you do is also somewhat intangible. But getting an outcome from working with you, achieving the thing they set out to do is a good outcome for you, isn't it? And it depends with each one. So I think, to achieve their business, helping your clients achieve their business goals. So from their perspective, it's to achieve the goal that they set out to when they engage with you. I think that's the right one.
That works. Basically, it allows them to talk to their Russian-speaking prospects without any barrier, as if they were talking to another Anglophone, for example.
So speak to their Russian counterpart without impediment, or
without any barrier, any impediment.
Without any barrier. And look, your business certainly a lot better than I do. I would suggest, if this is something that you wanted to refine to, work with your messaging, those are two alternatives we've spoken about, and you might want to think about them some more. And, if you've got colleagues who you respect, you might want to bounce them off them, and even maybe some of your clients, and say, how would you articulate a good outcome in working with me? But their result rather than your objective, if you like. Anyway, I'll leave that one with you. Sharon, how about you?
Well, I said it right at the beginning of our conversation. I've just refined it based on what Julia and Jeff have said. And what I said right at the beginning was to get or provide the right staff to support my clients' business plans and strategies for the future. But actually, if I refine it, now I don't know if this is too vague, but I've just put helping businesses achieve their goals by helping them secure the right personnel. Is that more succinct?
Well, I actually, if you ask me, my sense is the second part of that sentence. It's like engaging or employing the ideal candidate. That's their number one result, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And so, one of the things I said in one of my responses to my post, it's like, sometimes you might want to think of this as the checkout test. It's like if you were standing in a checkout and some sort of young person, even a kid or an older person, said to you, what outcome do your clients get from working to you? How would you describe it to them? It's not only talking to a sophisticated person, because often you might be engaging with people who don't have that level of sophistication. So the more easily understood it is, the better. And in your world, and I think for a lot of recruiters, is finding the ideal candidate. That's the result for these people, because we all know that in your world there's a lot of false starts, and that comes down often to the skill of the recruiter. So there's a lot of other things you could do, but that would be my sense of it. So play around with it, but that's what I think is great. Hey guys, just I've given my ideas, but we're all intelligent people. I'd like to include myself in that. If anyone's got any thoughts on what any of us have said, chuck them in. We don't have a lot of people on the call, and we've still got a few minutes to go. Has anyone got any sort of comments on what's been said? All good?
You've been so articulate. I don't think I'm needed anymore.
Exactly.
That's all good. Hey, that was really intended partly because I think it's an easy thing to get a quick little discussion and outcome from, but also to give you a sense of one of the many exercises. There's probably about 60 or 70. Obviously, some of them are better than others, and some of them resonate more with some people than other people. But it's just to give you a bit of a sense of, the types of outcomes you can get from going through the exercises in the book. So what I'm going to do now is just maybe reinforce the 4 different modules. Jeff, you missed some of this, but there's 4 modules in Book Yourself Solid, and essentially we understand that marketing is critically important in any business, but we see marketing as something you do when and to be most effective after you've got the first 3 modules in place. And the first module is creating your foundation. So marketing creates awareness, but what the clients would do is, once you've built your foundation, the prospects would check you out from all of the things you've done in the foundation. And we did cover a bit about that, so that, they would go and have a look at the thing that built trust and credibility and a whole lot of other things in the module 1. And if you kind of pass all the tests in that stage, they'll then keep validating you and checking your social proof, what sort of recommendations you've got, and they will engage with you commensurate with the amount of trust you build with them. So all the things they see and hear about you, and then the third module, which is the bottom item on the screen, is once the foundation's in place, once you've built the trust and credibility. Assuming your pricing is right and that your sales conversations are appropriate, you'll book the business. So you need to get those first 3 foundations in place, and then the marketing or the 6 core self-promotion strategies we recommend in Book Yourself Solid create the awareness that people will come into your world and go through
what you're doing process. Is you're creating raving fans.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
for me a long time.
And a lot of that's happening in foundation. Sorry, module 2. Raving fans, the trust and credibility. But Jeff, I mean, that happens over time. You don't have it in one conversation.
Oh, no.
Every time they see you, there's more and more credibility. So yeah, raving fans. I love that concept. I think Seth Godin uses that quite a lot. But yeah, it's about relationships. And one of
the question.
Yes.
It took me 10 years to get my database, if you will, on LinkedIn, to get these 16,000 connections. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they think they're going LinkedIn and they're going to get leads just like that. And
yeah,
it's not like that. Because there's nothing worse than, I think you guys on the call will tell you, it's nothing worse than an automated message.
Yeah.
Because people think they can get business just like that.
Yeah.
But obviously looking at this is obviously brilliant because it explains to people what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, to raise your brand awareness and build a brand around yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, the awareness is the piece you need to do at the end, but you've got to get the foundations right so that once you get the awareness, you're attracting the right clients and that you've got enough structure and credibility to engage and get them on board. And, you know, one of the key principles of Book Yourself Solid is marketing doesn't get you clients. It creates awareness, but the best thing marketing really does is attracts leads. The question is, are those the right quality leads? And then do you have a process and the structure in your business and the foundation to convert those leads? So marketing is just the start of that process. And then there's all these other things which get to the next level. In the interest of time, I'll just keep moving along. What I say to people is, you know, people who come along to this introduction, some people don't do much. You know, they might take away a few things, and you know, that's pretty normal. We all see these shiny objects all day long, and we engage with some and others we don't. Let me just take you off share. Some people buy the book, and I would say to you, if you're not sure, there's both this version, which is the original written version. It's now in edition 3. If you like Audible and you like this concept, Michael Port, who's a second sort of grade, second tier, I might say, actor. He was on Sex and the City, amongst others. He's got a great speaking voice. So if you only do Audible and you like the idea of Book Yourself Solid, you know, for 15 Aussie dollars, what's that about, I don't know, £8 or whatever, you can listen to the book on Audible. The other one that I particularly love is this version, which Sharon and I were comparing before. It's a fully illustrated version. It costs about 70 Aussie. So that's going to be, you know, 35, 40 pounds, but it's a beautiful book. I mean, it goes
but it's brilliant. And to be fair, I've just opened, I'm on for page 23 of mine.
Yes.
And this is, I'm on Dump the Duds.
yeah, I love that.
But it's a brilliant book. I would recommend it.
I mean, you know,
my name on there.
It goes to 450 pages, so there's a lot of information in, but you know, there's a lot of white space. There's a lot of these. I mean, if you like the diagrams you saw before, that's the type of stuff he does. So, you know, I would say to you, if you don't do anything else, but you like the concept, by all means, you know, get the Audible version. You can listen to it in your car when you're walking, or if you like, you know, if you're more visual and you're a bit of a right brand person, the illustrated version is gold. You know, all the exercises like that I showed you before are in there and the worksheet, so you can actually write in the book. And together there's all the sort of the thinking behind it. So it's a fully comprehensive system in a book. The third
and it does make you think as well, doesn't it? It makes you think about who your ideal clients are and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and you know what you consider to be a dud client and what you'd consider to be an ideal one. So to be fair, and it's all in one place. You don't have to read the book and write loads of notes, do you? So the illustrated version, country mile,
and it's a workbook, so you can fill it out in pencil and rub it out and do what you like, and you can actually use it as a reference work. So it's got the thinking behind it, together with the worked exercises for your business. So it's all in one place. That's a great outcome. Look, the other thing I'm doing is that I'm going to be running a Book Yourself Solid workshop style group course commencing on the 7th of January. It's going to be fortnightly. You know, if I get enough people in both countries, I'll do one in Australia, one in Europe. It's going to be 90 minutes to 2 hours a session. So it's going to be a work group rather than just instruction. And the structure of these meetings is going to be 30 minutes of me running through the exercises, just explaining them, probably 45 or so minutes for people to work through the exercises in the Zoom room. because one of the big things I find is, you know, any form of sort of support I give clients, they don't do much between meetings. So if I'm providing a forum where people can work quietly in the Zoom room and do a breakout with me if they've got a question, then, you know, there's no excuses that I didn't do the homework. Well, you're doing it in the session. And then the third part of the meetings will be maybe half an hour or so of peer-to-peer, where people, you know, share with others on the group, you know, this is what I think, what do you think, how can I help you, that kind of thing, bit of masterminding stuff. So that's going to be running for the March quarter. So there'll be 7 sessions. One of them will be a bit of an introduction, and then the others will be kind of hardcore, 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And that timing will depend on, you know, how much time people need. And I'm going to be charging people 500 Aussie dollars for that. Again, I think the exchange rates maybe that's 300 pounds, whatever. But I'm also saying to people, because I believe these things only get outcomes if you commit for 3 months, I'm going to substantially discount it to 997 Aussie dollars for 3 months, which is 7 lessons for, you know, 2 hours a pop. And it's going to be in a group environment. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to, I guess, offer on the back of this, is just running these quarterly sessions. And then, you know, once I've got through 1 quarter, because I've only been going with this for about 3 months now, is, you know, extending it into something broader. But in the first instance, giving people, you know, really clear on the foundational piece. So that's a little about me and what I want to do with people next. You know, I keep in contact with everyone afterwards. You know, I don't do the hardcore selling thing. If people have an interest, I know that there'll be a conversation. And I guess just finally, as I promised, and we're right out of time, but who knows, I had a few glasses of wine earlier, so I'm not as quick as normal. You'll forgive me, like at 6 o'clock on the 16th of December. But I just wanted to reach out. If there are any questions from what I've spoken about, you know, we've got a few minutes now. I know we're a little over time, but we'll blame Jeff for that coming in late. So.
No, Jeff.
Well, time in 10 years I've slept in.
It's all good. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, if anything comes to you afterwards, you all know how to get a hold of me. But if you've got a question right now, we're a little over time, but you know, shoot through if you've got something.
It's obviously, I've not read this book, and it's obviously, if Sharon reads it and likes it, I think it's pretty good, because Sharon's quite professional in my world.
Yeah.
Only joking, you know what I mean? No, I mean, right. As I see a coach, you've got to be different than everybody else. You've got something there. I mean, because, well, let's be honest, Sharon, I meet loads of coaches and they're good, but the only 1 or 2 people seem to stand out. And when I talk to you, I listen to what you say, which is the biggest thing. So I will actually probably buy this book and have a good look at it. But I don't read much, to be honest with you. I do a lot of videos, but I'm into this LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I've started reading that.
Yeah.
We do that. We do that anyway.
Yeah.
Majority of it, yeah. We're surprised in what we do.